All right, so YouTube is caught up. I apologize for my absolute buffoonery with technology. You would think after doing the insurance panel Monday, closers corner, and all that time on the World Wide Web, I'd have a better sense for how this technology works, but I don't. So we're going to review real quick now that I've caught up with YouTube here, my acronym for closing. So appreciate the patience as now we've got 20 people listening. I appreciate everybody being there. We got a little acronym for closing. We're going to cover a little bit about closing, and then we're going to talk a little bit about branding. So number one, credibility. If you don't have credibility in the sale, why are they going to buy from you? How do you establish credibility? Credibility can be established by showing your license, building a brand, showing your marketing organization. If you're doing something to establish you're just not some guy that showed up randomly and that you know what you're doing. Next, establishing some kind of likability. What is that? Tell a funny joke. Get your client to laugh. Get the person relating to you. If they don't like you, you could have the best product on the market. They're not buying crap from you. Next on the list, have a straight line approach from start to finish. Know exactly what you're going to say. Know exactly where you're going to start, what the middle of the presentation looks like, and what the end of the presentation looks like. And most importantly, when you have a straight line approach, when the client tries to throw something at you and it doesn't work properly, what I mean by it doesn't work properly is their objection doesn't work is because you were expecting it. You exactly know what's going to happen because you have the same presentation from start to finish. A real life example, I had really good rapport with a client a while back, and we were joking and we're laughing, and I'm like, Miss Betty, I know it's like 8 o'clock at night. Just bear with me as I wrap this up. This is kind of like giving the same Broadway show 9 times in a row. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, honestly, I say the same thing to everybody. You guys were just more fun tonight. So have a straight line approach from start to finish, and that will allow you to give a more consistent presentation. And the last part of the close acronym is evoke emotion. If the person doesn't feel anything about what they're doing, they're not going to do anything with you. If you haven't evoked a reason why they want insurance, a 60-year-old who hasn't gotten it by now isn't going to get insurance from you. Most importantly, if I could explain anything about evoking emotion, it's one key thing. Stop saying passed away. It's the silliest euphemism on the market, in your vocabulary, and it's designed for people to not feel anything. 1 second. It's designed for people to not feel upset about somebody dying. Say dying, say dead, say death. Say something that reminds the person that they're getting insurance because one day they won't be here. You could even listen to what your client says, what your prospect says, and sometimes they'll say, oh, well, you know, if I pass away, correct them. Well, Mr. Johnson, when you die, when you're talking about the beneficiary, Mr. Johnson, when you die, who is going to be the one to be responsible for your final expenses? Not passed away. It's a silly euphemism that people say so they don't feel things about what they're saying. Does that all kind of make sense? We got 25 folks over here. We've got a few folks on YouTube over here. I've got a lot more content on closing. I got a lot of notes on branding that we're going to cover. I appreciate your guys' patience a little earlier as I absolutely destroy the technology part of this here. Alrighty. Got some thumbs up there that this makes sense. Appreciate that, Christine, and everybody with the thumbs up. Let's move into the next topic. Uh-oh, my computer is sitting on my notes. Hold on. Alrighty, so as we go live from the Closer's Corner couch, and my computer and stuff is a little crooked here. The next topic, general closing techniques. I know this is covered in a bunch of Closer's Corner videos, but if you haven't seen them, this is why I want to do them again. There's 3 basic ways you're going to end up closing somebody. They have insurance and you're trying to get them a better product. They don't have insurance and you're trying to get them to buy insurance. Or they have a term policy, and in these situations, we're speaking about AARP, Globe Life, and other garbage direct-to-consumer policies. So they don't have it, they have term, or they have a policy and you're getting them a better one. Does that all kind of make sense? Thumbs up from somebody there. Okay. Let's cover the first one, the blind taste test close. In this situation, where the blind taste test close comes in handy is when the person already has a policy. The person has a policy that's more expensive than what you have, doesn't offer the same value as what you have. The person has something and you can get them something better. Now, of course, every conversation about upgrades, not replacements, is done on an ethical basis. If we're taking them from one policy to another, we're taking them into a better situation. Agreed? Okay. When I'm looking over here, Facebook, it's YouTube. When I'm looking over there, YouTube, it's Facebook. Apologize if it's not all on the same computer tonight. So, blind taste test close. What this all basically is taking a situation, putting it on a piece of paper, and making it as non-confrontational as possible. What you don't see on this piece of paper, and I know it's backwards, and I'm going to explain it, is there's no carrier names, there's no company names, there's no your policy and my policy. It's just numbers. And why that's important is you're removing all the argument from the situation. Oh, look at my policy. Look at your policy. It's just numbers. So you know you can get them a lower rate. You can get them more coverage. And you want to write it all down on a blank piece of paper. And how I like to write it out is at the top is what they currently have. Let's just say it's a $10,000 policy for $75 a month. What I write in the middle is more coverage for the same price they're spending. Again, I apologize that it's backwards. And at the bottom over here, it's the same amount of coverage at a lower premium. Now, we all like to kind of capture all the premium that we can get, but I like to capture all the sales I can get. And I know using this method, I'm going to get every single sale. Why is that? Because I'm going to hand this to them and say, Miss Betty, I've written down 3 things on a piece of paper here. Just look them over and tell me which one of them makes the most sense. And I hand them the paper. And they're going to look at it, and they're always going to pick what? Your policy, not theirs. And why is that? Because they're seeing they can get more insurance, or they're seeing they can save money. Does that all kind of make sense? It's simply written down here. There's no arguing about it. There's no confrontation about it. All they see is more insurance or less money. Now, what happens if they challenge you on it? What happens if they say, well, wait a second, this is my policy at the top, isn't it? Well, oh yeah, Mr. Johnson, it is your policy at the top. But keep in mind, you're entitled to save money or get more coverage. Does that all kind of make sense? Oh yeah. Now, people pick different ones for different reasons. Again, which one's best for you? And again, they're not going to pick theirs. It just doesn't make sense. Now, at some point, they may ask, well, wait a second, what company is this? Is that my company? You can address that one later on. But if you get them to agree to buy more insurance for the same price or save less money, the sale is made. Would we all agree about that? All right, so that's the blind taste test close. Simply write it down, put it in front of them, and let them decide, because they're going to decide your policy and not theirs. Alrighty, next up on the list, I've gotten feedback that some of the hardest sales to make are dealing with a situation where somebody has term through like Globe Life, AARP, we'll call it direct to consumer, not to get brand specific, but they have a 5-year renewable term, and they get stuck on the fact thinking they've got, $100,000 for $40 a month or some absolute nonsense like that. Take that out of the picture. Simply write it all down like we did before. And when you have the other insurance company on the phone to explain it to them, you're writing it down as they talk about it so you can show it to the potential client and they can make a good decision. One of the things that we're doing here is we're writing everything down on these closes because some people are visual and some people are auditory. Some people need to hear you tell it to them, and some people need to read it. If all you're ever doing in your close is telling it to somebody, you're missing the people that need to see it on paper. And if you do both in telling it and showing it, you're going to capture both of the types of the people that learn that way. I hope that makes sense as well. So let's say in this example, it's a term to whole life upgrade, not a replacement. You've gotten on the phone with the insurance company. They've explained every single rate increase from the age the person currently is up until the point the policy expires. And I know it sounds laborious and embellishing, but it's important that the person hears. Your rate's going to go from 30 to 300. Let the other company tell it to them so you're not the bad guy. And what you're doing the whole time you're asking for this information is you're writing it down. Again, these are made up numbers. It's backwards. You probably can't see it. But what I've done is I've simply written down, for example, age 65, 70, 75. And then at age 80, it says policy expires with no insurance and no money back, because that's accurate. And when you write all that down and you show it to them, when you get to the point that you're closing the sale, it makes more sense for the person to see it. Now, how this looks at the end of the sale is simple. Now, Ms. Johnson, you heard exactly what the insurance company said. The rate increases, as I've shown you, from $75 a month all the way up to $225. My God. I mean, that's probably more than anybody could afford, right? Okay. But most of all, even if you could afford those rate increases, at age 80, this policy expires and you get no money back and you have no insurance. You understood that, right? Okay. Now, what I've done is I've written that all out so you can see it. And I've written down a couple whole life options for you to decide which one of these makes the most sense to you. And you give it to them and you let them decide. Laborious, not laborious. I'm sorry. So what you're showing them is garbage, good, garbage, good. And when they see it like this, oh, I can't afford this. Oh, my policy expires. Oh, okay. Here's a couple whole life options. You know, they're thinking, well, I kind of had 50,000, 100,000, some made up amount of money they don't have. But they see this and they're like, okay, well, I'll pick the 20,000. It's less confrontational. You've simply written down the junk they have, the junk you have to, not the junk, the good thing you have to offer, and they're going to take the good thing more times than not. Again, why are we doing this? The insurance company was made out to be the bad guy. You're the good guy. They need to hear it, they need to see it, and they need to see an option. A lot of times if you're struggling to close, it's that the person doesn't understand they need to buy something from you. They literally need to see or be told that there is an option right now. What do you mean by that? Well, again, 3-option close. Which one of these makes the most sense to you? What I'm basically saying is, Miss Betty, pick an option. You're buying insurance. Which option is it? You don't say it like that, but you literally need to direct the person to do something. You know, the whole comment when you're door knocking, you want me to take my shoes off? It's basically saying, let me in, you're flipping home. But you're instructing them what's the next step of the process. Hopefully it all kind of makes sense to you guys. Let's move on to the next one, the simple 3-option close. And in this scenario, the person doesn't have any insurance. In this scenario, the key part is kind of 3 different things. On my little 3-option close sheet, it's a little different than the one that I think we kind of published to everybody, but I've made it very, very basic. I've literally written down, and I review it with the client again. Again, what I'm going to show you today, Miss Betty, is whole life insurance, and it's written right here, but it's backwards. And with whole life, and I'm pointing to them with a pen, the premium never increases. The policy can never cancel because you get older or sicker. See, this is where procrastination can really get people, right, Miss Betty? Okay. Whole life builds cash value. And if you're ever diagnosed terminally ill, you can get some of the money ahead of time. Also, if you ever die in an accident, this policy will pay double, or whatever additional riders and benefits you built in, you can throw in as that last thing. So I go over all that with them again, and I'll say, now I've written down 3 options for you, some of the most popular options in your area. Go ahead and tell me which option is best for you. And I unfold the piece of paper and I give it to them. Now, the key thing when you're showing rates and options is making sure, like we all know, the minimum option is $50 a month. Whatever $50 a month gets them, that has to be your minimum. All of 2019, not only in my production, but in my group's production, our average monthly premium was $72 a month. That means that you can comfortably show 70-something, 72, 73, some 70-something in your 3-option close. Because the majority of people who bought from me bought a $72 a month policy. Does that all kind of make sense? Alrighty. So you write a 3-option close, you explain all the information to them again. And what I found very, very helpful is when I've re-articulated what whole life is to them again, A lot of times the person will say to me, well, holy cow, if it comes with all of this, I want that one. Well, no, duh, it comes with all of this. They all come with all of this. But you're building value, you're building interest, you're building urgency and explaining that if you wait, it's going to suck. It's going to cost more later. See, the procrastinators wait for age and health to change. By taking advantage of this today, that's not going to be a problem to you. So a basic 3-option close, you put it in front of them, you give them a direction, and they typically pick something. I know we're all going to address some objections, but I'm not here to give an objection training tonight. I'm just giving general important topics about closing techniques, the topics on how to close, and then a little bit of branding. I'm going to leave some meat on the bone for the rest of the year and other Monday night lives for folks to give. But the importance with closing is also having a routine, having the same technique to address every problem. Here's how I'm going to address replacements. Here's how I'm going to address direct-to-consumer term. Here's how I'm going to show a 3-option close. Just consistently doing the same thing will allow you to make more sales. I hope that all makes sense. Give me a thumbs up. Throw some comments in over here. YouTube, if we got a few folks listening, give me some comments over there. I want to talk next about branding because I think branding is a little unspoken, but the more and more you do the business, the more branding is important. Chris says, can you share the quote sheet? I think we've got one in the FS Dropbox that is a little bit more generic and probably more corporate approved. But in the end, it just basically explains what they're getting. And here are some options. I like to keep things very, 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 very basic for our potential clients so that there isn't room for confusion. If we know anything, we know that confused people don't buy, right? Appreciate that, Chase. Yeah, confused people don't buy. And the other key point I like to give in my most important topics I teach on is pay attention to how much time you're spending in the home. If you're spending more than 45 minutes before you're asking someone to do something, they're not going to do something. A person can only receive about 45 minutes worth of information before their brain just shuts off and they can't make a decision. Now, of course, we're going to have longer presentations, complicated replacements, policy reviews, husbands and wives, but just pay attention to time. You don't want to rush them. You don't want to force your way through the presentation. But if people aren't buying from you and you're asking them to buy 2 hours into your presentation, it's your fault. They can't absorb that much information at that point. Alrighty, let's move on to branding. If you guys have comments, questions, or anything specific you want me to cover, you can comment here. You can comment over here on YouTube, but we can cover it. But let's move into branding real quick. What do I mean by branding? Branding is basically establishing yourself, warming down the sale, and making sure when you leave, the person understands what they did today. Why is that important? Because the easiest way to prevent buyer's remorse is your excited client has just bought a policy. Now, the first person they're going to see, they're going to tell it to them. And if they can't articulate generally what they just did, they're going to regret it. So let's just say Miss Betty buys a $50 a month policy from American Amicable. And after you leave, an hour later, her friend from across the street comes. You don't leave her any material. There's no brochures. There's no leave behinds. There's no folder. There's no business card. There's nothing. But she knows she got some kind of insurance. She got the straight life. Some guy showed up at her door, had a card in her hand, and before you know it, he was gone. Her friend's going to say, Betty, that was a scam. He didn't leave you any information. What kind of insurance was it? What company was it? Where was he from? You got to cancel that. You got to close your bank account. You should stop payment on that. I mean, it all kind of happens, but why it happens is they don't know what they did. They have no proof of what they did. They have no brochures, no folders, no business cards, and they can't articulate what kind of insurance they just got. So let's rewind the clock a little bit. Let's warm down the sale, set expectations, and brand yourself in the home. What does this look like? All right, Miss Betty, before I leave today, I want to ask you, do you understand what we did together today? Okay, what kind of insurance did you get? We call this the quiz. Okay, and how much a month is it? Perfect. And does this policy ever expire? It doesn't. Perfect. Now, what's going to happen next is In 7 to 10 days, your policy is going to come in the mail. It's going to come in a big white envelope. When you open up the envelope, there's going to be a blue folder from American Amicable inside. When you get your policy, I need you to call me. Let me know you got the policy so that if you have any other questions, we can go over it together. Does that make sense? Okay. If you have, do you have any questions about what we did together? No. Any concerns about what we've done together? Do you feel good about the insurance you've picked out for your family? Good. You see what I did there is I established what happens when I leave. You understand what you got, and I opened up the opportunity for her to be upset, concerned, give some more objections, give something for us to talk about. If you don't do that, they're not going to like the rest of what happens next. Let me give you an example here. Look at this. It's beautiful marketing material from the insurance company. If you're not leaving something with the client, you're leaving yourself a reason for them to cancel. Look at all this. It's beautiful, written down information. A brochure, a policy summary page, your business card, and they can tangibly hold it, see it, and when they wake up the next day, remember why they bought insurance. And when their friend or their family comes over and they say, you gave that skinny white kid your social, your bank account, and all your information, are you crazy? They can go get the folder and say, well, look, this is an insurance policy. This is the company. Oh, I got something from them. It couldn't be a scam. And then the concerned friend or family is going to say, oh, that kind of makes sense. This is an insurance. You're okay. I'm sorry, Betty. You got a good insurance. Basically, all the family is trying to do, all the person's trying to do is validate what they got. And if they don't have anything, you're going to invite yourself a problem. So the key point in branding and warming down is explaining expectations and leaving them something. Number 2, going over what you've left them on a policy summary or some type of written down explanation so they understand why they did it. The next thing is if you've done some type of an upgrade, not a replacement, write down on the brochure, the policy summary page, something, why you did it, why we got this today, more insurance for less money, why you did this, old policy would expire, this one wouldn't. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully it does, because it makes sense to everyone that bought insurance from me. Next thing, get magnets. I know this sounds silly. Get a business card, buy some double-sided magnets from Amazon. They'll show up by 6 o'clock that day. Slap them together and put them on the client's fridge. Clients are going to lose the business card, your policy, the brochures, almost everything you give them, honestly. But they're not going to lose the magnet. Now, here's the joke you want to tell. Now, Miss Betty, I'm going to give you a magnetic version of me. I don't have the best personality, but this one's pretty magnetic, right? And the beauty of that is put it on your fridge because you can't lose your fridge, right? Sorry about that. It's bedtime in the house here. So make sure you leave them something. And by something, I mean a magnet you can put on the fridge and they can hold on to and they can understand who got insurance, who to call, and who to give the magnet to the next time someone wants to get insurance. Double-sided magnets, business cards, best investment you can get. Next step, thank you cards. Send a thank you card. It isn't that hard. Go on Vistaprint, put some stuff down, order them, and send them out. Why is that important? Because the thank you card will get there before the policy, and scam artists don't send thank you cards. Just do it, and even though you won't see a tangible result every single time, sometimes the tangible result is the one you didn't know about. I've been doing thank you cards for probably 4 years. It's laborious, it's time-consuming. It takes an hour sometimes when you sell a lot of insurance, but I'm convinced it helps you keep the sale. Thank you cards, next step of the branding process. Or policy delivery. I think one of the best things I did the first year I did the business is I delivered a lot of policies. Welcome to Pennsylvania, where you got to deliver a lot of policies to make sure they get the policy delivery receipt back. But deliver the policy when you're new with the business because you've closed sales you didn't really close. What I mean by that is they weren't the best closes, but the client still bought a policy. Go back, review the policy, ask for referrals, Make sure the client knows what they got and they know that you're there to take care of them. Thank you cards or policy delivery, do some kind of second touchback right after they got the policy. We're almost done, guys. I know we're about 30 minutes in after some technical difficulties, but I'm going to cover the end of branding, review everything we talked about one more time. But if you have questions, throw it in the comment section below. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you can give me a thumbs up and share it, that means that other people will see it out in YouTube land. The more subscribers we get, the more, appreciative we are for the work that we do in YouTube land. When it comes to branding and warming down, it's important to do this because you're building a book of business. And I know we all say book of business over and over and over and over again, but what you're really doing is you're building a strong renewal stream. You're building money that will pay your mortgage, money that will pay the rent, money that will come in when you need it the most, when you're locked in the house because everyone's afraid of the virus. Renewals will pay you in a way you need it the most. Most importantly, not just renewals, but the fact that if you took care of Miss Betty properly and you didn't, you did your job properly, the next time somebody asks about getting insurance, they're going to ask who you got your insurance from. And you're going to get my favorite referral of all kind, of all types, the unsolicited referral. Hey, Miss Betty, you helped her with insurance. You do insurance still, right? Of course. And before you know it, you're sitting in front of someone you never thought you'd sit in front of. And these are what I call downstream revenue situations. They're not the money that pays you now. They're not the money you can count on, but it's downstream from the rock you've thrown in the river and that kind of pattern that builds out from there. Why you want to keep the business on the books is years down the road, these downstream cases are the ones that are going to make sure when you're having a bullcrap, terrible day in the field and you get this call, you can drive right over, make the sale, get on the phone, lock it down if it's a telesale, whatever you got to do. These are people you never thought you'd see. They're never going to fill out a lead, but because you took care of the original client right, these downstream sales will make you money. And why do they exist? Is because you branded yourself properly. They know who they got insurance from. You did your job well, and they know how to contact you. Hopefully that all kind of makes sense. Here's another key point. Building your book of business means you can build yourself cross sales. Cross sales include a myriad of different products we're not going to cover tonight, but you want to make good, solid sales that stay on the books because these are the kind of sales that will pay you later, not just stay on the books forever. What do we got next? Oh, we got a little reminder here from Chase. Attend the morning call. The morning call I thought was always important to me, and it was something we did at my prior organization, and I needed it at all times because it's part of my routine. I log on at the same time. I make sure I'm awake and functional at the same time. And I hear something about final expense to start the day. And I call out my numbers when I'm in the field so I can call out my accountability for my day before. It's okay to call out a zero. If you went out and you saw people, be accountable for it. When the morning call first existed long before I was ever here, people would fight tooth and nail late into the evening to make sure they didn't have to get on the call and call out nothing. So the purpose of the morning call is to build routine, build regularity to your life, throw in some useful content you'll hear and need at another point, and to be accountable for your actions. That you celebrate your success, you struggle through your difficulties, but you do it over and over and over again. Building routine is what builds stability, what builds your bank account, and what keeps you in the business. I got a comment over here. All right, appreciate that, Coda. Ben and all 21 folks still tuned in tonight. I'm going to go over this one more time in rapid succession like we do in Closer's Corner. If you guys have anything else you want touched on, commented on, responded to, now's your opportunity. All righty, so the things we covered tonight are all spread across my office. All right, the acronym for closing: credibility, likability, observe body language, a straight line approach. Brian, my audio looks good over here. I got a green light on YouTube. Double check your device there. A straight line approach from start to finish in your sale, and evoking emotion. If the person doesn't feel emotion, they're not going to be getting any insurance from you. We got a couple options on closing. The blind taste test close. Simply make a non-confrontational way for the person to understand you can get them more insurance for the same price, or you can save them some money. And in a term to whole life scenario, you literally write it down from the rate increases to whole life so they know which one is the best one for them to pick. And the simple 3-option close. Summarize again what they're getting, what options you can get, and instruct them basically which option is the best for you. Now, these are a couple options that everybody in this area is picking. They're all getting this insurance. Which one is best for you? And you make it like that. And then to summarize, we talked on this last, branding. Leave the client something they can hold on to and say, this is what I got from that guy that randomly showed up, called me the day before, gave him all my information, but I got this, and I know this is my insurance. And explain this to them so they understand what they got, and review it with them and open up the opportunity for them to ask, do you have any questions about what we did? Any concerns about what we've done together? Address them before you go. And after you go, send a thank you card, deliver the policy, contact them later, build the book of business that will pay you, and build your bank account, as I affectionately just coined that phrase, and Chase was nice enough to quote it. Alrighty, guys, I think that might be it for Monday Night Live. Does anybody have anything else they want to throw in there before we can wrap this up? All right, Ben, appreciate that. What else we got here? Anybody in YouTube land? Anybody on Facebook want to throw something out there? Appreciate that, Charlie. Basically, I think the last thing I want to wrap up and say is something I say over and over and over again. Get in the home, make a friend, get them to like you, and until you know what to say, call somebody for help. And work ethic trumps talent every single day. Work hard, work diligently, work over and over and over and over again. And the harder you work, the better you'll get. You will not be good at this when you get started, but the harder you work, the better you will get at this. And if you refuse to fail, if you go out there and say, I am not going home empty-handed, and I am getting dressed and going out in the field to help 3 people today, say that to yourself over and over again before you get out of bed tomorrow. I'm going into the field. I'm going to help 3 people today, and I'm going to do right by the people I see. I'm very confident if you take that passion and that approach and you actually work a full day from the end of the morning call until 6 or 7 or 8 at night, you will not go home empty-handed. All right, I appreciate being able to launch Monday Night Live. Hopefully that you guys put that into good use. I apologize for the technology trouble in the beginning, but I'm going to put a wrap to it on YouTube here, wrap it on Facebook. Get ready for your day tomorrow.